Welcome back to Make It Mondays, and I am working on a blanket, or I will be shortly. So I'm working on it with this pretty blue and this pretty blue. And I'm going to be doing a kind of Art Deco-y pattern. For people who know what pixie hats look like, it's gonna kind of look like that. So I will be back in a little bit. So it's been a little bit since I started on the blanket, and this is how far I've gotten. So this is 2 repeats of the pattern. It's just that I offset them so that it makes more of a T shape or cross shape in the middle. So I've cut off the yarn from this ball, and I'm going to start with this ball next. So originally I was saying that I didn't know how big this was going to be able to get. Well, I should be able to do at least 6 of these repeats, which should get me to a 60-inch blanket tall. So hopefully that will be what is coming up a little bit later in this video. I will come back after I get the next stripe done out of this one, and then hopefully one more segment later will be the entire blanket. As you guys can probably tell, this video is taking a long time. So be back in a bit. So it's been a bit since my last update on this, and the blanket has gotten much bigger. I now have 4.5 stripes, and the balls are getting much smaller. But there's a problem. I made a mistake. I made a really big mistake, actually. And that mistake has to do with the width. The width of this blanket was supposed to be 40 inches wide. It's not. It's 32. So I'm having to refigure out what I'm going to do. Since this was donated yarn to me, I don't know if I'm going to need to go get more yarn, if I'm going to add strips to the side. I'm just not sure yet. In general, I do really love this pattern, but this is why every single pattern out there says check your gauge. And I was silly and I didn't do that because I typically don't do that on blankets. They're big enough that it's typically not a problem. Yeah, this pattern made it be a problem. So, as you heard in the last segment, there was a big mess up. And now the blanket is done. But I'm sure you're thinking, didn't you have to add to the sides? And I did. So I just did a garter stitch edging on each side that got me out much closer to the needed width. So I ended up finishing up the darker blue ball and then matching the number of rows on the other side. I did have to get a second ball, or more correctly, break into my stash for a second ball of the light blue. So it is now done, or the knitting is done. I still have all these silly little ends. And as soon as those are woven in and the label is sewn on, then this will be going off to Project Linus. So again, this is not necessarily a how-to. This is just to inspire others to get out there and make stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do what I did, but just go out and make stuff. And I will see you next time on Make It Mondays.